the river, so that there is a mixing. The tidal action, the waves action, can bring about mixing of salt water and fresh water, so that there will be a brackish condition in the water. Then in the estuarine habitat, they have shallow water with no wave action. The water is just there, no wave action. There is no wave that's also, the water is kind of still and there, still inside in the estuarine habitat. Then the plants you find plants with prop roots in estuarine habitat. Then they also have breathing roots, so that they are able to respire, and we call the breathing roots pneumatophores. So they are able to undergo respiration even as they are in water. The prop roots and breathing roots are responsible for that. Estuarine habitat has dense vegetation with scarce aquatic plants. You have dense vegetation, but they rarely have aquatic plants. Then you don't find seaweed surviving in an estuarine habitat. In estuarine habitat, the salinity constantly changes, so there is no stability of salinity in estuarine habitat. Then when there is dryness, the soil cracks. When there is no water, the environment is harsh, then the soil cracks. Then you have hydrogen sulfide and other gases present in the estuarine habitat. Also, you have the substratum being soft, unstable, and poorly aerated. So what are the adaptive features of plants in the estuarine habitat? The first is that they have stilt roots, as we have in the Rhizophora racemosa. That's the red mangrove plant, Rhizophora racemosa. It has stilt roots which provide support and prevent it from being washed away by tides. As the tide keep moving, if the plant is not stable enough or balanced enough, the tide will readily destroy it. So because of that, the red mangrove has stilt roots, so that it's able to support itself in the estuarine habitat. Also, the white mangrove, the Avicennia, have pneumatophores, respiratory roots, for exchange of gases. There is pneumatophores for exchange of gases in white mangrove. Also, the seedlings of red mangrove germinate while still on the parent plant. It starts germinating on its parent plant before it drops into the water. If it does not do that, by the time it drops into the water, it may not be able to survive the water. So an adaptive measure of red mangrove is to germinate its young seedling in the parent plant before it drops into the water or to the ground. Now we'll talk about the adaptive features of animals. Estuarine snail escape periodic dilution of external medium by burrowing into the soil, into the mud. I said that in the estuarine, the salinity constantly changes. So when there is periodic change, the estuarine snail, the snails that are in this estuarine habitat, they get into the mud, they burrow into the mud to prevent periodic dilution of external medium. Also, crabs and polychaetes burrow fast. They burrow fast into the soil against predators and strong waves or tides that may occur. Also, mosquito larvae and pupae possess breathing trumpets for their respiration in this estuarine habitat. They also excrete water as fast as it enters their body. They excrete water as fast as it enters their body, so that they will be able to maintain a balance. There is also retention of salt by the animals in the estuarine habitat. The next habitat we'll be talking about is the freshwater habitat, and it's divided majorly into two: the lentic water and the lotic water. The lentic water is the stagnant water, such as lakes, ponds, and puddles, while the lotic water is the running water, such as your streams, river, and spring. So the water that is running, that's what is called the lotic water. But the one that is stagnant is what is called lentic water. Characteristics of freshwater habitat. They have low oxygen content at the bottom, but high oxygen content at the top. As you go deep into the water, there is low concentration of oxygen. Also, the temperature varies. The temperature is lower at the depth than at the top of the water. Also, temperature varies with the season. When the weather is hot, the temperature will be higher than when it is cold. Also, light concentration is highest at the top. The sunlight can penetrate, can touch the surface, rather than the population of organisms that you find in the bottom of the water. So light concentration is highest at the surface, while it decreases as you go in depth to the water. There is low salinity, which with water, low salinity. There is low salt content in freshwater habitat compared to the salt water. So, and water enters the body of organisms by osmosis. We talk about osmosis. Water enters the body of organisms by osmosis. Then in freshwater habitat, the density is almost 1.0. Then animals in the freshwater habitat excrete hypotonic urine, thereby conserving their body salt. Then the adaptive features of plants in the freshwater habitat. How do plants in freshwater habitats cope? Number one, they have long petioles at the center of the blade, which prevent them from being drawn by water currents. So it's the petiole that helps them to be stable on the water. And what is a petiole? Petiole is the attachment, the stalk of the leaf that attach the leaf to the stem. That's what is called petiole. So they have very long petiole, very long stalk at the center of the blade, which prevent them from being drawn by the water currents. So they have that long, which helps them to be stable. Also, ceratophyllum, that's onwards, are sting dissected leaf for increased surface area to sunlight and gas exchange. So this particular plant, onwards, has thin dissected leaf. The leaf is very thin, so that it can absorb water, it can absorb sunlight, and also can respire easily because of that surface area. Then the third point under the adaptive features of plants in freshwater habitats, the waterweed, that's Elodia, it has long flexible submerged petiole, making them to swing with water current. The petiole of waterweed is flexible, so it is long and flexible, so it can swing with the water current and is not taken away by it. The adaptive features of animals in the freshwater habitats. The first is that mosquitoes have respiratory organs, so they are able to respire even in the water. Then tadpole and fishes have streamlined bodies for buoyancy in water. They are able to move and do their activities in the water because of their streamlined body. Water flea has paddle-like legs that are of boat-like form. Boats are created to survive in water. So also these water fleas are structured like that, so that they will be able to be balanced in water. Then pond skaters have flattened bodies with air for buoyancy in water. They have flattened body and they have air so that they can be buoyant in water, they can be balanced, and they can be able to float rather than sink in the water. Tilapia has streamlined body, which provides minimum resistance for water to overflow them, to flow over them. So the streamlined body of tilapia gives it resistance and prevents water from overflowing it. Okay, we have the questions from all we've done in this thing too. Number 1, the soil with the highest water retaining capacity is stony soil, sandy soil, loamy soil, or clayey soil. Which soil has the highest water retaining capacity? Then number 2, the influence of soil on organism in an habitat is referred to as what? A. Physiographic, B. Biotic, C. Topographic, D. Edaphic. Number 3. Which of the following instruments is used in measuring atmospheric pressure? A. Hygrometer, B. Thermometer, C. Barometer, D. Hydrometer. Number 4. The major limiting factor of productivity in the aquatic habitat is what? A. Temperature, B. Water, C. Sunlight, D. Food. Number 5. Which of the following pair of organisms, which of the following group of organisms feeds directly on green plants? A. Secondary consumers, B. Producers, C. Decomposers, D. Primary consumers. Number 6. The solid part of the ecosystem is referred to as the what? A. Biosphere, B. Lithosphere, C. Atmosphere, D. Hydrosphere. Then number 7. In a food chain involving a primary producer, a primary consumer, as well as a secondary consumer, the sharing of trophic energy is in the form that the A. Primary consumer has more energy than the primary producer. B. Secondary consumer takes up all the energy content of the primary consumer. C. Energy is shared equally between the three groups of organisms. D. Secondary consumer gets only a small portion of the energy contained in the primary producers. To the answers now. The answer of the first question is D. Clay soil. Clay soil is the one that has the highest water retaining capacity. Then number 2, the influence of soil on organism in an habitat is referred to as the edaphic factor. The effect of soil on organism in an habitat is referred to as edaphic factor. Then the instruments used in measuring atmospheric pressure is C. Barometer. Barometer is used in measuring atmospheric pressure. Then number 4, the major limiting factor of productivity in an aquatic habitat is sunlight, the option C. We have mentioned this that sunlight is very, very important. It's the primary source of energy. So the sunlight is a limiting factor. When it's not present in the aquatic habitat, then the organisms there cannot produce their food. Thereby, there will be no continuation in the aquatic habitat. Then to question 5. Which group of organisms feeds directly on green plants? They are the primary consumers. They are the next in chain. After the green plants, which are the primary producers, then we have the primary consumers. Then number 6, the solid part of the ecosystem is called the lithosphere. Option B. The solid part of the ecosystem is called the lithosphere, which is option B. Then for the last question, in a food chain involving a primary producer, a primary consumer, as well as a secondary consumer, the sharing of trophic energy is in the form that the option is D. Secondary consumer gets only a small portion of the energy contained in the primary producer. I explained that the energy decreases as you go down the chain. So it is not the same amount of energy that the primary producer has that is passed to the primary consumer, let alone the secondary consumer. So the energy keeps decreasing. The secondary consumer gets just a small portion of the energy found in the primary producers.